Hey there, my name is Ryan Kuder, and I'm the managing director for Techstars Anywhere, Techstars' first virtual accelerator program. Anywhere is an accelerator that doesn't require founders to relocate, and we deliver most of the experience remote first. This gives us a great opportunity to work with founders from big cities and from small towns, really from anywhere. We even had one company participate in our last program who lived nomadically out of their vans. Since everything's gone virtual over the last couple of months, we've had a lot of people reach out to us and say, how do you do this? And so I thought it'd be great to spend a few minutes to talk about how we run Techstars Anywhere, not necessarily listening to me, but bringing in some of the folks who really make the accelerator happen. Damola, thanks for joining us. It's really great to see you. Can you just spend a minute and introduce yourself and your company for us?
Hey, Ron, good to see you too. My name is Damola Ogundipe, and I'm one of the founders and the CEO of Civic Eagle. We're a tech company, B2B SaaS tech company that helps organizations manage government policy, including legislation and regulations across the country.
Awesome. And like you came through Techstars Anywhere in 2019. Tell us a little bit about what was in your decision to join a virtual accelerator.
Yeah, so we decided to join a virtual accelerator for probably two or three reasons. That the first reason was we weren't trying to relocate anywhere. We're already a remote first team, so folks are we're living in specific cities already across the country, and nobody wanted to relocate to a location. Like, it would have made it really difficult for us to participate in an accelerator if we had to relocate to Texas or Chicago or something like that. So a virtual accelerator seemed like really interesting. The second reason was we already had an inkling that we were going to build a remote first team. We hadn't really made that final decision yet. We were a 4-person company when we went through Techstars. We got accepted into Techstars, but we had already started talking about hey, maybe we try to do this remotely, and we had been reading about it. So going through a virtual accelerator seemed like a really good idea because we figured we learned a lot of things, and it kind of worked with our thought process in the direction we were going of building a remote team. So we wanted to kind of validate some of the ideas and thoughts that we had about how to do that. And a virtual accelerator seemed like a great way to do that. The other part of it is most of the time when you're pitching investors nowadays, you're doing it virtually, right? So you're doing it through Zoom. Like, it's very rare, even pre-COVID days, that you're flying out to Silicon Valley for that first pitch, right? Or you're flying to New York or wherever for that first pitch. The first 1 or 2 calls are going to be virtual, so you better know how to tell and synthesize your story and be able to transmit it in a virtual way, where it hits and it lands. So, I think those two things made it where my entire focus was just executing and not worrying about it being virtual or not.
And if you had one bit of advice for a founder who was debating about an in-person or a virtual accelerator and was leaning towards a virtual accelerator, what's the one bit of advice that you would give them in order to help them get the most out of that virtual experience?
I would say to understand that going through the virtual accelerator is going to help you long term build your company, because I think at this point we've all accepted the fact that the pre-COVID days are done. Right, most workforces are going to, at the very least, be hybrid remote workforces and in-person workforces. How do you build culture? How do you communicate synchronously and asynchronously? How do you figure out how to hire people that you don't see, right, in person, right? There are a lot of skill sets that you can learn, storytelling, virtual, and being able to do it in a digital way. And how do you communicate with people and make them feel connected to you when you're looking at a screen, right? What are you, all of these things you end up learning. It's more than just the acceleration of your company. You're learning how to build culture. You're learning how to run a remote organization, or even a hybrid remote organization. You're building skills, not just for the present, but for the future of work and working. So to me, it's not a choice on whether or not you participate in remote or virtual first accelerator versus an in-person accelerator. It is the necessity. It is what's going to help you, really build for the future.
Awesome. Well, Damola, thanks a ton for joining us today and taking some time out. I know that you're busy growing a company and helping your customers, and really appreciate you taking the time out to join us today. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Ryan.
Lindsay, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate being here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Would love to start out with just having you give us a quick introduction of you and your company.
Yep. I'm Lindsay Michaelides, and I am one of the co-founders and the CEO of StrongSuit. And StrongSuit is a tech-enabled family concierge that employers offer to their top talent to help working parents continue to manage the craziness of having a busy career and a busy family life. For me, attending an accelerator was super important because I don't have a background in startups. I have an MBA, but I knew that I needed more kind of hands-on expertise and help.
And now, you're not based in one of the big tech hubs, are you?
No, an emerging tech hub though, the burgeoning tech hub of Columbus, Ohio.
And so what was that like? Like, you've got your Columbus community and then you join Techstars Anywhere, and all of a sudden you're getting introduced to mentors and investors and founders from across the rest of the country. Tell us a little bit about what happened to your network as a result of joining a virtual accelerator.
Our network totally exploded. And like the network that we have today would not have been possible without Techstars. It really brought us to like a different level of kind of networking and kind of startup sophistication when it came to the mentors that we were talking to, the other co-founders that were now our peers, the investors that we had access to. And, you know, we just closed our seed round here several weeks ago. And
congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, we're thrilled. And we have incredible investors that we are so excited to be working with. And we do have one local investor here in Columbus, Ohio. And they told us, they're like, your seed round has more West Coast investors than any other company that has closed a seed round in Columbus in years. And that's entirely because of Techstars.
What would you say to somebody who might be a little bit trepidatious about joining a virtual accelerator as opposed to an in-person accelerator?
I don't see any trade-offs, honestly, between the virtual accelerator and an in-person accelerator. I think that maybe some of the concerns that I've heard others express are that you don't have the depth of relationships with your class when you go through a virtual accelerator. And I think that is, I can understand that coming from somebody who's not experienced it, but I think you and Kendra do such a great job of building community within the class. And I think the folks that come into Techstars Anywhere they're coming in to build that community and to build that network. And so everybody's willing to put in the time and the effort, and that's part of why you come to Techstars, is to build those relationships. And so I would tell people, like, you're not going to be shortchanged on that front in any way, shape, or form.
Hey there.
Hey, welcome back. So Damola, one of the things that Lindsay and I were just talking about is this concept of the peer network that develops while you're in Techstars. And one of the questions that I think that we hear a lot is like how do the relationships between founders develop in a virtual accelerator? Like, do they get the same kind of depth of relationship and the same kind of peer relationships? Can you guys talk for just a minute about kind of like the relationships that you developed with each other and the other founders that were in your Techstars Anywhere class?
Yeah, you know, in some ways, I think that the relationship ends up being a little bit deeper and stronger because you're forced to communicate in a way that doesn't rely just on proximity, right? You're forced to like really have like good, deep conversations. Like, you kind of have the time to do that and the space to do that because you don't have to just rely solely on synchronous, like in real time communication. You can chat and send messages and go back and forth and be able to have a shared experience that way too. So, I mean, I feel really close. I know Lindsay and I, we talk probably at least once every 3 weeks, or once a month.
Yeah.
We end up having some sort of chat and a conversation. I'd say that's probably the same for 60, 70% of my classmates in the Techstars program that we went through with Techstars Anywhere. And a lot of that is just that there was a lot of trust built in from kind of almost always being in like that constant communication because it's asynchronous, which ends up being really nice. On top of that, we still do have those synchronous like Zoom chats where like the entire cohort comes together. So you're still able to build those relationships too, even like from having that face to face, even though it's like through a screen conversation like we're having right now.
What's the difference between the virtual relationships that you've got with the founders in your Techstars class who are scattered all around and the in-person networks that you've developed in the places where you're starting your businesses?
So you're exactly right on that first point. Probably would never have met Lindsay or even know who Lindsay was if it wasn't
That would have been a miss.
It would have definitely been it would have definitely been a miss. But you know, because it's a virtual accelerator, you're able to bring in people, and particularly like a pretty diverse set of people, a pretty diverse group of people that may not have been able to meet each other or connect with each other if you had to relocate and be in a physical space. I mean, looking around with our cohort, like it's a diverse group. I mean, there I think at least 4 African-American founders. I mean, this is out of a 10 team cohort. I think we were 30-40% women founders, something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. But like, it was a really diverse group of people, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that it just makes things easier. And if you can make things easier in order to bring people together, you're gonna have a more diverse set of talent and more diverse set of people. And that has also helped our company, because we're getting different perspectives. We're getting new ideas. Like, we're able to ping pong, not just with the same like type of person over and over and over again, but with different people with different experiences and different perspectives that provide a collective amount of knowledge that helps elevate our company in the way that we're thinking and looking at things. So that virtual aspect of being able to bring people together, where if it was in a physical space, they may not be able to do that, has made our experience great, and continues to make the Techstars alumni experience great as well.
And I would add to that, we're like at StrongSuit, I know this is the case for Civic Eagle too. Everything I'm about to say applies to Civic Eagle as well. Like, we're building a global company. And so the idea that, our entire network and everybody that we know, that we could ever build a global company without expanding our network outside of Columbus, Ohio, seems crazy to me. And, Techstars Anywhere just helped us to accelerate the building of that network outside of our own community that much faster. And not only that, but I think it also gave us the tools and comfort and familiarity to run a business globally and have a remote workforce and a distributed workforce, which we do have on our team. And I think the other thing that I didn't realize going into the program was that the program, even though it's virtual, does an incredible job of building culture, community, and that kind of speed that I think accelerators are used to. And maybe that, I think, could sometimes maybe be something that folks evaluating other accelerators might think, like, how do you get that kind of like speed that you get in an accelerator to continue to do more faster and accelerate as fast as you can?
Well, you guys, thanks. Really appreciate you both being here.
Thanks, Ryan. It was so much fun.
Techstars Anywhere, just like the rest of the Techstars accelerators, is a mentor-focused accelerator program. The founders get the value from this program from working with some really fantastic mentors. And mentoring virtually can be a little bit different than mentoring in person. I thought it'd be great to bring in one of my good friends, Misti Cain, a former founder herself and one of our top mentors for Techstars Anywhere. All right, Misti, hey, thanks so much for joining us. I am so excited to have you here because I want to talk to you about mentoring virtually. Tell me a little bit about kind of like your background as a mentor.
Absolutely. Ryan, first, can I say thank you for having me? And number two, I love mentoring. I think I found that it's my raison d'etre. So I have a very funny story with how I met you and came into Techstars, but I've been mentoring for quite a while. Mentoring has come very naturally to me.
I think one of the things that really makes that mentor-mentee relationship work really well is actually the relationship, right? It's that ability to get to know and to understand each other and to, almost become like part of a team.
Yes.
And when you mentor through a virtual accelerator program, right? A lot of these founders you're meeting for the first time in this quick little 20-minute meeting right at the beginning of the program. Talk to us a little bit about how those relationships develop through a virtual accelerator.
The thing that I love about, well, just say Techstars in general, the give first mentality is that you start out by caring. So I take a look at what are these companies and I do my research. I know for the Techstars Anywhere program, you, Ryan, and Kendra do an amazing job of giving us as mentors so much background and so much information on the founders so that we can actually do research on their company. When we talk to them, we don't start out by, hey, what are your metrics? What are your numbers? It's like, let me get to know you. So the first questions that we ask are, tell me about you, tell me about your interests, what are your struggles, what are you going through? And then being just as equally transparent about ourselves so they can build that trust with us and know that we care not just about helping them get money or helping them with their marketing, but we care about them as people.
We appreciate like how much you give to the founders that come through Techstars, like incredibly. If you could just give something to people who might be considering mentoring. And as we think about kind of like this new paradigm where a lot of this is going to happen virtually and online, what kind of mentoring would you give to the mentors? Like what's your meta mentoring, like mentoring for mentors? What kind of advice would you give somebody who is considering mentoring or thinking about how to be an effective mentor when most of the interactions that we're going to have are going to be virtual like this?
Absolutely. So there's two. The first one being a quote that completely blew my mind. I can't tell you when I heard it, but I know it's been years, and I think it's attributed to Zig Ziglar. And it goes something like, I'm going to butcher it, so don't quote me verbatim, but it's something like, if you can have everything in life that you want, as long as you help others get what they want. And the second one is to make genuine and authentic connections. And I know that sounds really cliche, and I'm sorry, but I have to put it out there because you can't just be all business all the time. It's just not the way it works, especially virtually. If you can just check in and say like, hey, how's it going? How is your day that ends in Y? Because I mean, during the pandemic, no one knows what day it is right now. But just I wanted to check in with you and see how you're doing, and just really get to know people on a human level.
Yeah.
I think that virtual doesn't matter. It's not much of an obstacle. It's not as much of a barrier as one might think it might be.
Misti, thanks so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate your insights. We appreciate you and all the work that you do for our founders, and we're really glad that we've got you as part of the Techstars team. A big part of any accelerator program is helping connect founders with the right investors to help grow their businesses. Really fortunate at Techstars Anywhere to be able to work with Lolita Taub, who's not only an angel investor, but she's also a Techstars Anywhere mentor. All right, Lolita, thank you so much for being here with us today. It means a ton to have you. Would love if you just take a second and give us a little bit of background on yourself.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ryan, for having me. My name's Lolita Taub, and I'm a weekday operator and weekend investor. And I love to say that I'm an angel investor in Techstars companies, and I've really enjoyed being a mentor as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we think it's terrific. First of all, as a mentor, thank you. The value that you provide for our companies has been absolutely fantastic. But as an angel investor, you're somebody who's actually getting to know these founders through the virtual accelerator and making real investment decisions about it. Can you walk us a little bit through kind of how you go from that initial contact and the first time you meet a founder to the decision to make an investment when all of your interactions are happening online?
Yeah, so for me, it's pretty fluid. So in fact, my entire working career as an operator has primarily been remote. So I've been very comfortable with this whole concept of meeting people, building relationships with folks that I've never met in real life. So I think that gives me some comfort. So when things shifted with COVID and we all became work from home, it wasn't too much of a change or a shift in terms of thinking, hey, I'm not meeting people in real life. It was just more of a, let's make sure our cameras are on and we're able to read body language. I think it's important because I want to see, how do you smile? Do you close your eyes? What quirks do you have? It's not the same as in real life, but in fact, I love it even more because I get to learn more about your space. And so many times when people turn on their cameras, it says a lot if they put a screen, one of those green screen things from Zoom, or you can just see their life.
One of the other things that I think comes along with having the ability to meet more founders, and one of the things that we firmly believe in with Techstars Anywhere, is that geography becomes a little less important once networks start to be built online, once connections start to be built virtually like this. How do you think about a founder's geography? Is it something that plays into your decision-making process at all?
Not me personally, and I know a lot of angels probably don't care as much as, say, for example, venture capitalists who may have a geographical thesis focus. For me, I don't mind. It could be anywhere. I love to connect with founders from all over the place. I don't care about geography. What I really care about is, do I believe in the founder and the founding team and in what they're going after? The business is going to evolve so many times over, but it's about what's their thinking process? What's the potential in their market? How aligned are they with the problem, the solution, so on and so forth? And I don't think that has any kind of bearing on where you are physically located.
So this whole concept of being human, I think, is really interesting, especially when our humanness is reduced to a box, right? Like on a screen, which is a strange way to be human, but it's doable.
Yeah.
How does a relationship progress from, learning about somebody to meeting somebody to making the decision to become one of their partners and invest in that company? How does that humanism express itself through that relationship when it's taking place online? Because I know there's a lot of investors who are uncomfortable with getting to that final point, and they'll go all
Yeah.
the way up to like the decision point. Like, how do you get over that final hurdle when the relationship is largely virtual?
Yeah, and you know what? I think it goes back to the conversation we just had about, hey, founder, you need to be comfortable online. It's the same for the investor. And some of us are taking longer than others to adjust to this new normal, but it's not so revolutionary, right? So for me, it's just been, and in fact, I'll tell you, with the context of my last 3 investments have been all based on virtual meetups, connections, relationships, and that's it. So
Me too.
you too. I mean, you're
Yeah.
an expert in this, Ryan, so we should be asking you. But in terms of how I've gotten over the hump, I guess I didn't even really think about it, but I can imagine that some people may have some anxiety around it. And I think just people need to get over it, because this is probably going to be a part of ongoing basis. Maybe we get some more in real life once a vaccine happens, but I think this is going to be more the MO than anything.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for everything that you do for founders, both as a Techstars mentor and all of the work that you do for the entire ecosystem. So there you have it. It's not a virtual accelerator. It's a Techstars accelerator. And there's nothing quite like it in the world.